I freeze. Right here in the arched doorway of my family's sprawling estate, the one that was supposed to be half mine. It's like a movie I've seen 100 times, a nightmare stuck on repeat. My sister, Elise, is lounging by the shimmering blue pool, a queen on her sun throne. Her laughter, light and careless, drifts over to me, mixed with the excited chatter of her equally pampered friends. They're gossiping, and I don't need super hearing to know it's about me. Inside, the faint clinking of crystal and the sharp, floral scent of my stepmother Diane's perfume tells me she's already in high gear, directing the staff. They're preparing for Elise's engagement party, a lavish affair, no doubt. And the kicker? It's all being funded by my biological mother's inheritance. Money that was meant for me. The earthy scent of rain-soaked grass, a storm just passed, fills my nostrils. It's a familiar scent, one that usually calms me. Today it just makes my stomach churn. My fingers instinctively go to the diamond pendant at my throat. It's small, discreet. The only tangible piece of my mother, of my past life, that I managed to keep hidden. The only thing they didn't take. There she is. Elise's voice, sharp as a shard of glass, cuts through the humid afternoon air. Our little helper has finally arrived. Her friends titter, their eyes flicking over me, dismissive. In my first life, I would have ducked my head. I would have mumbled an apology for being late, for existing. I would have meekly accepted the servant role they'd cast for me. But this isn't that life. This time, a small smile plays on my lips. I'm thinking of the crisp, official-looking documents tucked safely inside my worn bag. Documents that are about to change everything. Their world is about to tilt on its axis, and they don't even see the tremor. It was just 3 months ago. I died. Sounds dramatic, I know, but it's the plain, unvarnished truth. I was 27, worn out, broken down from years of being the unpaid, unthanked family servant, while Elise, my golden sister, lived like a princess, dripping in luxuries bought with my birthright. A stupid accident, they called it. A faulty railing on a balcony I was cleaning, of course. I remember the fall, the sharp pain, then nothing, until I woke up. Gasped for air like a drowning victim. I was 18 again, lying in my narrow attic bed. Sunlight, the kind that only happens on a late summer morning, streamed through the grimy window. It was the day before I was supposed to start university. The pivotal moment. The day I originally, foolishly, signed away control of my mother's vast estate to my father, trusting his assurances of expert management. He'd said it was too much for a young girl to handle. I'd believed him. This time, I knew better. Those 3 months since waking up haven't been spent in a daze of disbelief. No, I've been busy. Meticulously, obsessively, I've researched our family finances. Every shady deal, every hidden account, every siphon from my trust fund into theirs. I've opened secret bank accounts of my own, squirreled away what little I could, and I've gathered evidence. So much evidence of past embezzlement, of their calculated cruelty. Tonight at dinner, the first new-old betrayal lands. Father, with his usual air of benevolent authority, announces that Elise will be taking the penthouse apartment near the university. The one my mother had specifically bought for me, for my university years. He claims with a dismissive wave of his hand that I'd prefer to commute. 2 hours, each way. "You're so good at managing your time, darling," he'd said, a statement so false it was almost funny. The familiar sting of betrayal burns, hot and sharp. But this time, there are no tears threatening to spill. Instead, I taste something else on my tongue, something almost sweet. Anticipation. I lower my eyes, give a demure nod. "Of course, Father, whatever you think is best." Their relieved smiles are almost comical. They think I'm still the same compliant little mouse. Later, I slip away to my old attic bedroom. The musty scent of neglect, of forgotten things, is a suffocating reminder of my previous life, of the years I spent up here, invisible. I pull out my burner phone, the one they don't know about, and make a crucial call. "Mr. Hemlock, it's Clara Holloway. My mother, Eleanor Vance, was a client of yours." His voice, when it comes, is cautious, but he remembers. He remembers everything. The next morning, Father summons me. His study. The room always smells the same. expensive wood polish, old leather, and the faint, lingering scent of his cologne, always trying to mask the underlying aroma of whiskey. He's sitting behind his massive mahogany desk, a picture of paternal authority. He gestures to the chair opposite him. "Clara, darling, just a few routine papers to sign before you head off to university. Standard procedure." The routine paperwork. My stomach clenches. These are the same documents, the very same ones that in my first life handed him complete control of everything my mother left me. My fingers tremble as I reach for the heavy, gold-nibbed fountain pen he offers. It's a good performance, the trembling, authentic even, because a part of me is terrified. But beneath the fear, there's a core of icy resolve. I take the pen, and then I sign my name, with my non-dominant hand. The signature is shaky, just a little off, subtly, beautifully invalid. "I should probably read these first," I murmur, my voice barely a whisper. I look up at him through my lashes, feigning nervousness. For a split second, a flicker of something, panic? Annoyance? Flashes in his eyes before it's gone, smoothed over by his usual condescending smile. "Of course, darling, if you must. But it's all quite straightforward. Legal necessities, you understand." "Still," I say, gathering the papers. The embossed letterhead feels heavy, important, under my fingertips. "I'll look them over tonight and bring them back in the morning." He can't really refuse without looking suspicious. "Very well, don't be late." Later, in the cramped, dusty confines of my attic room, the artificial light from my phone illuminates the dancing dust motes. I photograph every single page, every damning clause, and send them digitally to Mr. Hemlock. Just as I hit send, my phone buzzes with a text from Elise. "Useless. Dad said you'd help me pack for the penthouse. Get down here now, and don't touch anything valuable." My lips curve into a smile. My rightful apartment. Her demand. This is it, my first real opportunity to set my plan in motion. Perfect. Dawn is just a pale suggestion in the sky when I creep down the silent hallway. The old house groans around me, settling. I slip into Father's study, the air still thick with the phantom scent of his whiskey and triumph. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic bird. Moving with a speed and precision I didn't know I possessed, I find the documents I'd left on his desk. I replace them with the forgeries Mr. Hemlock helped me prepare. They look identical, almost. Except for one tiny, crucial clause I'd had inserted. A requirement for detailed, audited quarterly financial reports on my inheritance. Directly to me. The metallic taste of anxiety floods my mouth. I hear a creak on the stairs, footsteps. Light, purposeful. My stepmother, Diane. Probably coming to check if I've finished laundering Elise's mountain of designer clothes, a task she'd assigned me late last night with a saccharine smile. I shove the real documents, the ones I'd signed so badly, into the waistband of my jeans, pulling my oversized sweater down to cover them, just as she sweeps into the room. Her expensive perfume, something cloyingly floral, is suffocating in the small space. Her eyes, sharp and assessing, narrow as she takes in my presence, my proximity to Father's desk. "Still here, Clara?" she asks, her voice dripping with disapproval. "Elise needs you. You're supposed to be organizing her shoes for the move. She has rather a lot, you know." A pointed look at my own worn sneakers. "Just finished, Diane." I lie smoothly, heading to her now. I spend the entire day as their servant, packing Elise's endless stream of belongings, fetching, carrying, cleaning up her messes. The physical labor makes my muscles burn, a dull ache settling deep in my bones. But my mind is sharp, calculating, running through the next set of moves, the ones after that. Every humiliation, every dismissive word fuels the cold fire in my gut. It's just before dinner when it happens. A roar, a bellow of pure, unadulterated rage that echoes through the entire house. Father, he's found the modified documents. He's read the new clause. I'm in the garden, ostensibly weeding a neglected flower bed, though really I was just trying to find a moment to breathe. The heavens open then, a sudden downpour, soaking me to the skin in seconds. But I don't move, I just lift my face to the cool rain, a genuine smile finally breaking free. As his shouts continue, shaking the very foundations of the house that was built on my mother's money. I pull out my burner phone. With trembling, rain-slicked fingers, I forward the first packet of evidence, his previous financial misdeeds, the ones from before my birth, to key family members, aunts, uncles, his own siblings, people who always whispered about his business acumen but never had proof. Let the games begin. The next morning, breakfast is a masterclass in strained silence. The air in the formal dining room crackles with unspoken fury. You could cut the tension with one of the sterling silver butter knives laid out beside my plate, a plate that pointedly holds only a dry piece of toast. Father sits at the head of the table, a newspaper held up like a shield, but the vein throbbing in his temple gives him away. He's still seething about the altered documents, but he's trying to project an image of unshakable control. He's failing. Elise swans in late, as usual. She's wearing a pale yellow sundress, almost identical to one my mother wore in countless old family photographs. The ones Diane supposedly lost years ago. It's a deliberate jab, a twist of the knife, and my heart gives a painful lurch. She beams at Father, air-kissing his cheek. "Morning, Daddy. Isn't it a glorious day?" Her eyes slide to me, a flicker of triumph in their depths. Then James arrives. My James. Or he was my James. Childhood best friend, the boy who swore on a sticky summer afternoon down by the creek that he'd always protect me. Now he's Elise's devoted boyfriend, soon-to-be fiancé, if their whispers are to be believed. He's here to help with her move to my penthouse. His gaze skitters away from mine the moment he enters the room, a flush creeping up his neck. He knows. He knows this is wrong. "Morning, Mr. Anderson. Diane, Elise." He mumbles a general greeting, carefully avoiding my name. Stepmother Diane, ever the conductor of this cruel orchestra, orchestrates the day's humiliations with practiced ease. "Clara, dear," she says, her voice syrupy sweet. "While Elise and James get her things sorted for the apartment, there's a rather urgent task for you. The garage needs a thorough clear-out. It's become quite dreadful. The others are heading out for a celebratory pre-move lunch at some trendy new bistro. I'm assigned to dust, dirt, and forgotten relics. The heat in the garage is stifling, the air thick with the smell of old oil and decaying cardboard. Cobwebs cling to everything. It's a miserable, back-breaking job. But then, tucked away in a dark corner, behind a stack of punctured tires, I find it. A dusty, water-stained cardboard box. Not junk, her things. My mother's belongings. Things Diane swore had been donated to charity after the accident. My hands tremble as I lift the lid, and there it is, nestled amongst faded letters and pressed flowers. Her diary, leather-bound with her familiar, elegant script filling the pages. My breath catches. As I flip through it, random phrases jump out, detailing her growing suspicions about Father, about his creative accounting, about the money that kept disappearing. Her fears written down in secret just weeks before her accidental death. Hours later, streaked with grime, my muscles screaming, I carry the box into the dining room. They're back from lunch, lingering over coffee and dessert, the scent of expensive food still hanging in the air. The sudden, complete silence as I enter is more telling than any words. They've been discussing me, my new defiance, perhaps. James looks down at his plate, a guilty flush staining his cheeks again. His complicity is a fresh, sharp stab. Father's eyes narrow, Diane's lips tighten into a thin, disapproving line. Elise just smirks, popping a raspberry into her mouth. They see the box. They know. Move-in day at the university. The sun beats down, making the asphalt steamy. Students and parents bustle everywhere, a chaotic symphony of excitement and anxiety. I drag my single, battered suitcase towards the assigned dormitory. Not the sleek, modern lines of the penthouse complex where Elise is currently being installed, but a tired-looking brick building with peeling paint around the window frames. My mother's legacy, meant for me, now a gilded cage for my sister, my roommate is already there, unpacking. Rebecca. She's petite, blonde, with a bright, slightly forced smile. "You must be Clara," she chirps. "Elise told me all about you. We're actually pretty good friends." Her eyes, bright and assessing, Flick over my worn jeans, my faded t-shirt, my single pathetic suitcase. The calculation is obvious. This is the downtrodden sister Elise has painted such a pitiful picture of. The room is small, cramped. It smells of fresh, cheap paint and a cloying floral air freshener that does little to mask the underlying scent of decades of student life. Two narrow beds, two scarred wooden desks, two tiny closets. It's a world away from the luxurious, sun-drenched penthouse with its panoramic city views, all paid for with money that should have been mine. At orientation, the next blow lands. I pick up my class schedule. It's a mess. Classes scheduled at impossible times, conflicting with every single slot I'd noted down for potential part-time job interviews. Father's handiwork, no doubt. Another way to ensure my continued financial dependence, to keep me under his thumb. The sunlight streams through the tall windows of the lecture hall, warm on my skin. I take a deep breath. In my past life, this would have sent me into a spiral of despair. This time, I know the system. I know the loopholes. Before the welcome speech is even over, I've slipped into the administration office, used a carefully crafted story, and, with a few discreet clicks on a sympathetic administrator's computer, who remembered my mother fondly from her own alumni days here, modified my schedule. Unauthorized, yes. Necessary, absolutely. As I walk back to my dorm, a text message pings on my burner phone. Unknown number. Don't make trouble for your family, Clara. It won't end well for you. The message disappears a second after I read it. Vanishes, as if it were never there. But not before I capture a screenshot. The warning is clear. They're watching. Or they have people who are. The mandatory freshman mixer is a cacophony of forced enthusiasm and too loud music. The bass vibrates through the cheap linoleum floorboards of the student union hall. I nurse a cup of lukewarm punch, a silent observer in the swirling throng. This isn't about making friends for me, not yet. This is reconnaissance. I watch Elise. She's holding court naturally, a radiant star in her designer dress, surrounded by a constellation of admirers. New university friends, already captivated. James's fraternity brothers, all eager to impress. The sons and daughters of father's business associates, networking even here. She's weaving her narrative, I can tell by the sympathetic glances thrown my way when she deigns to point me out. The difficult sister, the charity case they so generously support. Then, a familiar scent cuts through the stale air of cheap beer and desperation. Lemon verbena, my head snaps up. Professor Lane. My mother's former colleague from the university's history department. She's older now, her silver hair cut in a chic bob. But her eyes are just as sharp, just as kind as I remember from before. She's looking right at me, a puzzled frown creasing her forehead. We've never met, not in this timeline. But she recognizes something. My mother's ghost in my features, perhaps. Eleanor's daughter? She mouthed silently from across the room, a tentative smile dawning. I nod, a lump forming in my throat. A potential ally. Later, I drift near a group where James is talking, a little too loudly, to one of his fraternity brothers. They think they're being discreet. Yeah, Anderson's in a bit of a tight spot with that new deal, his friend is saying. James laughs, a strained sound. Don't worry, Elise's inheritance is the golden parachute. Old man Anderson has it all figured out. The ice in my drink melts, forgotten, as I subtly angle my phone, the recording app already running. Every word, a nail in their future coffins. Rebecca, my ever-watchful roommate, finds me later. Having fun? She asks, her eyes darting around. Elise was looking for you. I know she's reporting my every move back to my sister. Good. I've been feeding her a steady stream of precisely calculated misinformation. Let them think I'm lost, overwhelmed, on the verge of crumbling. The night ends with a classic Elise power play. As I'm leaving, one of her new acolytes, a girl with too much makeup and a cruel little smile, accidentally stumbles, sending a cascade of sticky, bright red fruit punch all down the front of my only decent formal outfit. The one I need for my scholarship interview tomorrow morning. Oh my God, I am so sorry, she gushes, not sounding sorry at all. Elise watches from a distance, a smug little smirk playing on her lips. They think they've crippled me. I return to my dorm, the sticky residue of punch clinging unpleasantly to my skin. I pull out the backup outfit I'd anticipated needing. They really are so predictable. A week later, Father calls an emergency family meeting. The air in the formal living room is thick with his displeasure. The quarterly financial reports, the ones stipulated by the documents I'd cleverly altered, are due. He paces before the cold fireplace, his agitation barely contained. The heavy leather chair creaks protestingly as I sit, calmly observing him. He presents a set of accounts, professionally printed, bound in faux leather. Fabricated, of course. They show my inheritance, what he claims is left of it, nearly depleted. Bad investments, unforeseen market downturns, a litany of excuses. It's a bold, blatant lie designed to discourage me, to make me believe there's nothing left to fight for, to make me abandon any thoughts of financial independence. Elise leans back, a smug, satisfied expression on her face. She catches my eye and gives a tiny, almost imperceptible shrug as if to say, "See? It's all gone. You get nothing." Her smugness falters just a little when I don't react with tears or hysterics. Instead, I calmly, politely request detailed records. "Thank you, Father. This is illuminating. Could I perhaps see the transaction histories for a few specific dates? For instance, the disbursements made around the 15th of March 2 years ago related to the Cayman Restructuring Fund, and the withdrawals from the educational subaccount in July of last year. Dates I've already meticulously investigated. Dates I know hide significant fraudulent transfers." The grandfather clock in the corner, a relic from my mother's side of the family, ticks loudly, ponderously, in the sudden stunned silence. Father's face mottles, a dull red creeping up his neck. Elise looks confused. Stepmother Diane, however, is quick to jump in. "Clara, darling," she says, her voice honey-sweet, though her knuckles are white where she grips her teacup. "Don't you worry your pretty little head about these boring financial matters. You should be focusing on your studies, making new friends." I murmur something about wanting to understand, to be responsible. I leave the meeting early, citing a study group. The study group is actually Mr. Hemlock and a forensic accountant he recommended. A quiet, ruthless woman named Miss Albright who specializes in untangling complex family embezzlements. The scent of her strong black coffee fills the small, discreet office as we go over my findings, her sharp eyes missing nothing. Later that week, I receive an email. My scholarship interview, the one for which I had the backup outfit, has been mysteriously canceled. Administrative error, the email says. Father's influence, undoubtedly. He's trying to cut off every possible escape route. But the scholarship interview itself had been a diversion. While they were focused on that, I was on a secure line, using a coded language my mother had taught me as a child, establishing a direct, untraceable connection with her Swiss banker. The one who managed the other accounts. The ones Father never knew existed. The game is getting more complex, and I'm finally learning the rules, mid-semester. The initial chaos of university has settled into a rhythm of lectures, late-night study sessions in the cavernous library, and the constant, gnawing awareness of my family's machinations. I'm starting to feel like I can breathe just a little. And then, the next bomb drops. I learn that Father has mortgaged my mother's childhood home. Her home. The one she loved. The one nestled in the countryside with the sprawling rose gardens. My rightful property. A place I hold sacred memories of her, and for what? To fund Elise's extravagant spring break trip to the Maldives. An army of Instagram influencers couldn't dream up a more ostentatious display of ill-gotten wealth. The family lawyer, a man named Mr. Winters, who always has a film of sweat on his upper lip, accidentally lets this slip. We run into each other at the campus coffee shop. He's all feigned surprise and forced bonhomie. "Oh, Clara, just the person. Your father was just saying how you're so focused on your studies, you wouldn't want to be bothered with tiresome property details. Sensible girl." He sips his espresso, the bitter aroma matching the taste that floods my mouth. "That lovely old place of your mother's. Securing a bit of liquidity with it. For Elise's, well, young people need their adventures." He winks. I want to throw my scalding coffee in his smug face. Then James approaches me on campus a few days later. He looks uncomfortable, guilty. He claims he misses our friendship, that things with Elise are complicated. His hand keeps going to his wrist, nervously adjusting his watch. It's the watch I gave him. A vintage Omega, my real father's, my mother's first husband, prized possession. I'd given it to James for his 18th birthday back in my first life, just before everything went so spectacularly wrong, just before he chose Elise and her glittering world over me. The fact that he's wearing it now feels like a deliberate, cruel twist of the knife. Or maybe he's just that oblivious. "Can we talk sometime, Clara, for old time's sake?" he asks, his eyes pleading. I give him a noncommittal shrug and walk away, his confusion radiating behind me. Father, in his infinite generosity, has arranged for me to spend my spring break productively. Not on a beach, not even resting. I'm to work at his office, cataloging old files in a windowless basement room. It's a task designed to be both demeaning and to keep me safely tucked away, unable to interfere with their sun-drenched Maldivian escape. "It'll teach you the value of hard work, Clara," he'd said, his voice heavy with false sincerity. "See how a real business operates." Meanwhile, Elise's social media is a constant barrage. Perfectly posed photos of her in eye-wateringly expensive swimwear. My money, against backdrops of turquoise water and white sand. She tags me in some of them. "Thinking of you, sis. Wish you were here. Not really, lol. Hash, Maldives dream hash. Living my best life hash thanks daddy." The casual cruelty is breathtaking. At Sunday dinner, the week before their departure, I notice another absence. A small, impressionist painting, a landscape my mother adored, is missing from the dining room wall. Sold, no doubt. Without my knowledge, without my consent. Another piece of her, of me, chipped away and converted into cash for their pleasure. I say nothing. I just eat my overcooked chicken, the silence in the room thick with their anticipation of paradise, and my own quiet, simmering rage. I accept the office assignment with downcast eyes and a sigh of resignation that I hope looks convincing. "Yes, Father, it'll be good experience," I murmur, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. Around the dinner table, I see the visible wave of relief. Father and Diane exchange small, satisfied glances. Good. Let them think I'm beaten. Let them think I've given up. The next few weeks, I become a model of dejected obedience. I start staying late at the university library every night. They assume I'm struggling with my coursework, falling behind, overwhelmed by the pressure. Rebecca dutifully reports my long hours and stressed demeanor to Elise. What they don't know is that I'm not poring over textbooks on microeconomics. I'm devouring volumes on property law, trust fund legislation, and corporate malfeasance. I'm using the university's extensive databases to trace financial records they think are long buried. I'm cultivating quiet, tentative relationships with key university administrators, people who knew and respected my mother, dropping hints about concerns regarding my estate's management. When Elise, in a flurry of pre-vacation entitlement, demands I help her prepare for her trip, I comply with a weary sigh. I spend hours in her luxurious, perfumed bedroom, a room overflowing with evidence of their theft, carefully folding silks and cashmere, organizing designer shoes, packing her ridiculously expensive luggage. And with every item, I secretly photograph receipts I find stuffed in drawers, price tags carelessly left on, serial numbers of high-value goods. Building my arsenal piece by piece. Rebecca, my roommate, my spy, proves invaluable, though not in the way she or Elise intends. Clara was crying in the shower again last night. I overhear her whispering into her phone to Elise. She sounds completely broken. It's true, I did make some noise. I knew she'd be listening through the thin bathroom door. Let them build their narrative of my collapse. It suits my purposes perfectly. While they're off basking in the Maldivian sun, I call Father every other day. My voice is small, hesitant, almost childlike. "Father, it's Clara. I just wanted to check. Is it all right if I buy a new notebook for my history class? Mine is almost full." Or, "Diane, I'm so sorry to bother you on your holiday, but the milk has gone off." Do I have permission to buy another carton? Each call is carefully constructed, each request designed to reinforce their perception of my helplessness and their absolute financial control over me. And of course, each call is meticulously recorded, adding to the growing mountain of evidence. The charade is exhausting, but the thought of their eventual downfall is a powerful stimulant. The moment their plane is wheels up, my real work begins. Spring break for me is not about cataloging dusty files in a basement, though I make sure to put in enough hours there to maintain appearances, leaving a trail of diligently and badly organized boxes. The real gold is upstairs. With most senior staff away or on reduced schedules, access is easier. Using a combination of guile, feigned incompetence, oh dear, I seem to have wandered into the executive suite, silly me, and a janitor's keycard I'd found and duplicated weeks ago, I gain access to Father's office. The hum of the heavy-duty air conditioning masks the soft clicks of my miniature camera as I systematically go through his computer, his private server, his supposedly secure files. I recover deleted emails, fragments of incriminating correspondence, records of wire transfers, all proving, beyond a shadow of a doubt, how he systematically diverted my trust fund into a complex web of shell companies and personal accounts. The digital trail is damning. During this week, I also meet again with Professor Lane. In the quiet, book-lined sanctuary of her campus office, over cups of fragrant lemon verbena tea, she reveals something astonishing. My mother, increasingly wary of Father in her final years, had established a second, secret trust, one my father never discovered. And Professor Lane? She's the executor. The scent of old books and dried lemon fills my nostrils as we carefully review the documents she'd kept hidden for years in the university archives. Letters, bank statements, my mother's clear, elegant handwriting outlining her suspicions, her fears, her desperate attempts to protect me even from beyond the grave. It's like hearing her voice again. Armed with this new knowledge and the resources it might unlock, I have Mr. Hemlock file preliminary paperwork to reclaim the mortgaged countryside home. We don't activate it yet, but everything is positioned for rapid execution when the time is right. The legal gears are starting to turn, silently, in the background. And finally, I reach out. I establish a discreet connection with 3 of my father's former business partners. Men he'd known for years, men he'd eventually cheated, bullied, or defrauded. Their anger is old, but it still simmers. They too have been waiting for an opportunity. A quiet alliance begins to form in the shadows. They have information, I have a plan. The family returns from the Maldives, tanned, relaxed, laden with expensive souvenirs. Their bubble of blissful ignorance doesn't last long. Within days, the mortgage company starts asking questions. Awkward, pointed questions about the true ownership of my mother's childhood home, about discrepancies in the submitted paperwork. Questions triggered by Mr. Hemlock's discreet, perfectly legal inquiry. I'm in the kitchen, silently preparing a simple dinner. My culinary skills have not been part of my Rebirth upgrade, unfortunately. When Father's bellow of rage erupts from his study. What do you mean there's a challenge to the title? It's my wife's former property. His face is flushed a startling shade of purple when he storms out, phone pressed to his ear, the vein in his temple pulsing angrily. I continue chopping vegetables, my expression placid. Elise's carefree, post-vacation glow shatters spectacularly when she learns her coveted summer internship at one of Father's cronies' companies is suddenly under review. Contingent on a full, unexpected financial audit of her father's dealings with said company. The internship, of course, was never about her skills. It was about access, about connections. Connections that are rapidly becoming liabilities. My stepmother, Diane, finds me alone in the garden later that week. The scent of roses, her prized blooms, is heavy in the humid evening air. She attempts a different tactic, soft-spoken concern, motherly advice. Clara, dear, your father is under a lot of stress. These complications. Perhaps if you just signed a few updated papers clarifying things for the family's security, it would all smooth over. She produces a new set of documents from her pocket, her smile strained. I take them, promise to look them over just like before. The desperation is poorly veiled. The whispers start to follow father. At a university alumni event, one he attends religiously for the networking opportunities, I see it. The averted gazes. The sudden silences when he approaches a group. The way old friends suddenly remember urgent appointments elsewhere. News of potential financial improprieties, of unstable foundations, travels fast in these circles. His hand trembles slightly as he reaches for another scotch from the passing tray. The climax of this particular loop comes when Elise confronts me. Not in the grand living room, not with an audience. She corners me in my attic bedroom, the cramped, dusty space that has been my refuge and my prison. The floorboards creak under her expensive, angry strides. "What did you do?" she hisses, her perfectly made-up face contorted in a way I've never seen before. "You're causing problems, Clara. You're ruining everything." And for the first time, beneath the anger, beneath the entitlement, I detect something new in her voice. Something delicious. Fear. The fear I saw in Elise's eyes was a small victory, but the war is far from over. They regroup, of course. Their tactics just become more insidious. I discover the next betrayal late one night, the cold blue light of my laptop illuminating my tired face in the otherwise dark dorm room. I can't access my university student account. Password incorrect? Strange. When I finally manage to reset it through a convoluted process, I find out why. James and Elise. Emails between them and my academic advisor, a mousy woman named Miss Periwinkle, who always seemed terrified of her own shadow, lay it all out. They've been systematically changing my course selections, dropping me from prerequisite classes, enrolling me in useless electives, all designed to extend my graduation timeline, to keep me stuck, to keep me financially dependent on father for as long as possible. The advisor's complicity is sickening. "As per your father's request to ensure Clara isn't overwhelmed," one email reads. Overwhelmed. Right. Then father announces with a magnanimous air at another tense Sunday dinner that he's invested my remaining inheritance. A fantastic opportunity, Clara. High yield, a little bit risky, but the potential returns are enormous. He beams, but his eyes are cold. He effectively means he's taken what little he hadn't already siphoned off and thrown it into some black hole. Likely another shell company or a failing venture of one of his cronies. My accounts, the ones he controlled, are now officially, according to him, empty. He slides a statement across the table. It's beautifully printed, utterly fraudulent. The following week, they host an important dinner party. Potential investors for father's latest sure thing. I'm not invited to sit at the table, of course. I'm instructed to serve the food, to act as kitchen help. "It's good for you to see how these things work from the ground up, Clara," Diane says, adjusting the single, pathetic strand of pearls I'm allowed to wear from my mother's collection, the rest naturally locked away or sold. The humiliation burns, having to offer canapes to men who are probably being swindled by my father, all while Elise flutters around in a new designer dress, charming everyone. Academically, the sabotage continues. My research paper, the one for Professor Lane's class, the one where I subtly detailed patterns of financial fraud eerily similar to my father's known methods, is mysteriously deleted from the university system the night before it's due. Wiped clean, no backup, according to the IT department's cursory investigation. I know who's behind it. I have my own backups, of course, but the message is clear. They can reach me anywhere. And then, perhaps the cruelest, most personal cut of all. Stepmother Diane accidentally destroys my mother's old photo album, the last remaining collection of personal photographs, the ones I'd managed to save from the garage box, the ones showing my mother smiling, happy, alive. "Oh, you left it so precariously on the edge of the table, dear," she coos, dabbing at a massive coffee stain that has bled through every single page, blurring faces, obliterating memories, clumsy me. Her eyes, however, hold a glint of pure, unadulterated malice. That album was the one thing from my past life, my first past life, that I hadn't managed to fully secure. They think they've erased her. They think they've erased me. The weight of these betrayals is heavy. I could fight, scream, accuse. But that's what they expect. It's what I did in my first life, and it got me nowhere but dead. So, I swallow the bitterness. I apologize. "I'm so sorry, Father. I say, my voice carefully modulated to sound broken, defeated. After he lectures me for an hour about the trouble and embarrassment my inquiries about the mortgage caused. I didn't understand. I'll be more careful. The condensation from my water glass leaves a damp ring on the polished antique surface of his study desk as I sit there, absorbing his tirade. They plan my next semester for me during another family discussion, from which I am mostly excluded, except to nod my agreement. More useless classes, a schedule designed to isolate me. I sit silently, letting their words wash over me, my mind miles away, already plotting. Diane presents me with my new weekly allowance. It's been reduced, significantly. With the family's current financial difficulties, Clara, we all have to make sacrifices, she explains, her tone dripping with false sympathy as she presses a few meager coins into my palm. They're heavy, cold. Of course, Diane. I understand completely, I reply, gratitude lacing my voice. She beams, pleased with my acquiescence. Then Elise delivers her masterstroke. Clara, darling, you're so good with words, and I'm just swamped. Could you possibly help me with my term paper for business ethics? It's on, well, ethical business practices, ironically enough. She giggles. The irony isn't lost on me. I agree without argument. I spend long nights in my cramped dorm room, the cheap fluorescent light buzzing overhead, dutifully completing her assignment, making it just good enough to pass but not brilliant. I begin to dress more shabbily. My already worn clothes become even more frayed. I wear the same 3 outfits in rotation. My hair is usually unkempt. I let dark circles appear under my eyes. I am the picture of a young woman crumbling under pressure, defeated by circumstance. Their perception of my broken state is my most valuable camouflage. At a dinner with father's business associates, I play my role to perfection. I am the quiet, plain, unremarkable daughter. I fade into the expensive wallpaper, a ghost at their feast, while Elise, vibrant and sparkling in a new dress, another one, holds court, dazzling them with her rehearsed charm. Father nods approvingly in her direction, then throws me a pitying glance. Perfect. They have no idea the storm that's brewing just beneath my dowdy exterior. While they are busy congratulating themselves on my apparent submission, I make my moves. The second trust, the one my mother so cleverly hid, is now active. Professor Lane and I met with the Swiss bankers via a secure video link. The relief of accessing funds that are truly mine, untainted by father's greed, is immense. The bank manager's virtual office, all sleek lines and discreet efficiency, smelled metaphorically of leather and citrus, a world away from my dusty attic. I signed the documents with Mr. Hemlock by my side, my hand steady. My first act as a woman of independent means? I purchased the mortgage on my mother's childhood home, through a series of shell companies, of course, set up by Mr. Hemlock's discreet international contacts. Untraceable. I am now, effectively, my father's creditor for that property. The delicious irony isn't lost on me. My demeaning office work, cataloging those old files, continues to yield dividends. I find more, so much more. Years of carefully buried financial fraud, illegal transactions, tax evasion. I quietly compile it all, cross-referencing, organizing, creating encrypted digital backups stored with trusted contacts, including Professor Lane and Miss Albright, the forensic accountant. Each piece of evidence is a stone in the foundation of their downfall. I orchestrate an accidental meeting, a charity event, one of those see and be seen galas that father loves. I arrange for his disgruntled former business partners, the ones I've been cultivating to be seated at the same table as some of his current high-stakes investors. A few carefully dropped words, a few shared suspicions over canapes and champagne. The seeds of doubt are sown in fertile ground. And finally, using my new, clean financial resources, I secure a small, off-campus apartment. Under a different name. A safe haven. A launchpad for the next phase. I start moving a few essential things there, piece by piece, late at night, preparing for my eventual final separation from the toxic charade of my family. The scent of fresh paint in this new, clean space is the scent of freedom. The first shoe drops when father receives an official, registered letter. His mortgage on my mother's childhood home has been purchased by an unknown entity, an entity that is now demanding an immediate, thorough review of the loan terms, citing potential irregularities in the original agreement. The letter hints at a possible recall of the entire loan if satisfactory answers aren't provided. Prana, I'm serving them dinner, pot roast again, my specialty of blandness, when he reads it. The silence stretches, then the explosion. The crystal decanter of whiskey he was about to pour from doesn't just get slammed down, it shatters against the dining room wall, sending shards of glass and amber liquid spraying across the expensive silk wallpaper like bitter tears. His face is a mask of apoplectic rage. "Who dares?" he bellows, his voice hoarse. "Who is doing this to me?" Diane shrinks back. Elise stares, her fork clattering onto her plate. I just offer more pot roast. A few days later, James is summoned by the University Ethics Committee. An anonymous tip-off, mine, of course, carefully laundered through multiple anonymous email accounts, has triggered an investigation into suspicious activity on multiple student accounts, including unauthorized course changes and potential grade tampering. My academic advisor, Miss Periwinkle, is also implicated. James looks pale and shaken when I pass him in the hallway outside the committee room. He doesn't meet my eyes. At the annual City Charity Gala, the one father considers the pinnacle of the social season, the whispers are no longer whispers. They are pointed snubs. Former business associates turn their backs. Old friends suddenly become engrossed in conversation elsewhere. He's becoming a pariah. The air around him is thick with the stench of failure and suspected scandal. He leaves early, his face grim. Stepmother Diane becomes a whirlwind of frantic phone calls. Her cultivated calm finally cracks. I overhear her hushed, desperate conversations, pleading with family friends, distant relatives, anyone who will listen for emergency loans. "Just a temporary setback," she insists, her voice tight with unshed tears as she paces the marble floors of the foyer, her expensive heels clicking an agitated rhythm. Charles has everything under control. He doesn't. And Elise? She confronts me about her business ethics paper. Not with anger this time, but with a bewildered frustration. "Professor Davies said it was adequate," she says, picking at a loose thread on her cashmere sweater. "But he's covered it in red ink. He said it showed a superficial understanding of core ethical principles and contained subtle, unresolved contradictions." "What does that even mean, Clara? You were supposed to make it good." I look at her, my expression mild. "I wrote what I thought the topic deserved, Elise. Perhaps you should have paid more attention in class." The subtle ethical contradictions I'd woven into the fabric of her paper were just enough to raise questions, to tarnish her academic record without being an outright failure. A little taste of her own medicine. Her eyes narrow, suspicion dawning. But she can't prove a thing. The ground beneath their feet is crumbling, and they're finally starting to feel the tremors. The carefully constructed facade of my family's wealth and respectability is now visibly cracking, pieces flaking off like old paint. Father, his face gray and drawn, makes the announcement during what can only be described as a funeral procession of a Sunday brunch. Due to temporary financial setbacks, he begins, his voice hollow, echoing strangely in the half-empty living room. So many of the valuable items, the antique grandfather clock, the silver tea service, several minor paintings, have already disappeared, quietly sold off in a desperate bid to stay afloat. We're going to have to sell the house. The house. This monument to their greed, built on the foundations of my stolen inheritance. The news lands with a thud. In a transparent, desperate attempt to secure a financial lifeline, Elise's engagement to James is announced. Hurriedly. No lavish party this time, just a strained dinner with James's bewildered-looking parents who clearly smell the desperation in the air. The diamond on Elise's finger looks more like a handcuff than a promise. The house itself seems to be reflecting the family's decline. A faint, persistent smell of mildew begins to permeate the air as routine maintenance is neglected. The once immaculate gardens are showing weeds. Most of the household staff have been dismissed, their wages an unaffordable luxury. Mrs. Gable, our longtime cook who always snuck me an extra cookie, gives me a sad, knowing look as she leaves, pressing a small, worn cookbook into my hand. "Your mother would have wanted you to have this, dear." Then comes Father's ultimate attempt to sever my last lifeline to a future independent of him. He informs me, his tone flat, devoid of even feigned sympathy, that I must withdraw from university at the end of the semester. We simply can't afford the fees anymore, Clara. You'll have to find a job. Contribute. Control, always control. At a tense, almost silent family meeting where the main course is blame and the dessert is despair, stepmother Diane, her face pinched and aged almost overnight, makes a suggestion that turns my stomach. "There's still Eleanor's jewelry," she says, her voice a brittle whisper. "The pieces in the vault, they must be worth a considerable sum." My mother's remaining jewelry. The last precious, tangible items that were purely hers, preserved from my inheritance. Items they hadn't yet dared to touch. I feel a cold rage, so potent it almost chokes me. The universe, it seems, has a flair for dramatic timing. Right then, as Diane's greedy words hang in the air, the phone rings. Father answers it on speaker, a habit born of arrogance. It's the bank, one of their main banks. "Mr. Anderson," a crisp, impersonal voice says, amplified for all to hear, "we need to discuss several large, irregular activities flagged on your primary business accounts. And a number of rather pressing overdue obligations." The silence that follows is deafening. Elise looks like she might faint. Father's hand holding the phone trembles violently. This is it, the precipice. The next morning, I request a private meeting with Father. "In your study, if that's all right." He looks surprised, then wary. But he agrees. The study, once his seat of power, his throne room, is now a shadow of its former self. The valuable first editions are gone from the shelves, the antique maps stripped from the walls, leaving pale rectangles on the faded wallpaper. The only things remaining are his oversized desk and the heavy leather chairs. It smells faintly of dust and defeat. I don't wait for him to offer me a seat. I take the one opposite him, the one where I'd trembled and feigned submission so many times before. The leather creaks familiarly beneath me, but I am different. I am no longer the intimidated daughter. I am a calculated opponent, and my game is just beginning. I reach into my bag and pull out a neatly bound folder. "I believe this will interest you," I say, my voice calm, even. I slide it across the polished wood of the desk. He opens it. His eyes scan the first page. Then the second. I watch as the blood drains from his face, leaving it a pasty, unhealthy gray. Copies. Meticulously organized copies of all the evidence I've compiled over months, years if you count my past life's dawning awareness. Bank transfers, clear and undeniable. Forged signatures his, on documents siphoning funds from my trust. Tax fraud documents, detailing undeclared income and hidden assets. Email chains. Witness statements from disgruntled former employees. It's all there. A symphony of his greed and deceit. His hand, the one not clutching the folder, trembles as it reaches for the glass of whiskey he'd poured himself. His morning pick-me-up now a desperate necessity. I also reconnected with Mother's former attorney, Mr. Hemlock. I continue, my voice level. He was most helpful. It seems Mother had her own suspicions about your business practices for quite some time before her death. She was a very meticulous woman. He looks up then, his eyes wide, a trapped animal's stare. The grandfather clock in the hall, one of the few valuable pieces left, too large to move discreetly, chimes the hour. 3 slow, sonorous bongs. As the last chime fades, I place a single crisp document on top of the damning folder. "And this," I say softly, "is perhaps the most pressing concern for you today." He picks it up. It's short to the point, official, proof. Undeniable proof that the holding company which recently acquired the mortgage on this very house, our family home, is under my complete control. Later that afternoon, I stand before them in the living room. Father, Diane, Elise. The afternoon sunlight slanting through the tall, grimy windows illuminates the dust particles dancing in the air, a physical manifestation of their crumbling world. James is there too, summoned by a frantic Elise looking pale and anxious. "I have an announcement," I begin, my voice clear and steady, echoing slightly in the increasingly empty room. "As of this morning, I am the beneficial owner of this house." I let that sink in. "I purchased it through a holding company." Father, a flicker of his old bluster returning, lunges forward, a guttural roar building in his chest. "You lying little—" I wouldn't, I interrupt, my voice still calm, but with an edge of steel he's never heard before. Unless you want Mr. Abernathy to add witness intimidation to the list of charges he's discussing with the Financial Crimes Unit. You remember Mr. Abernathy, don't you? Your former partner? He's been remarkably cooperative. Father freezes, his face contorting. The name Abernathy hits him like a physical blow. And speaking of finances, I continue, turning slightly to include Diane and a wide-eyed Elise. It turns out Mother was even more astute than we knew. She established a second trust, a very substantial one. One you never found, Father, and I now have full legal control of those assets. Elise makes a small, choking sound and collapses onto the threadbare sofa, the worn leather squeaking in protest. Her engagement ring glints mockingly on her trembling hand. The lifestyle she's always known, the one built on my stolen future, is dissolving before her eyes. But how? Diane whispers, her carefully constructed composure finally shattering. You're just a child. You have no legal standing. Actually, I say, pulling another set of documents from my bag, I do. I place them on the coffee table. Emancipation papers, legally processed and approved 3 months ago, shortly after my 18th birthday. I am, for all intents and purposes, an independent adult, fully capable of managing my own affairs. The groundwork I'd laid in those first few frantic weeks after my rebirth was now bearing fruit. Father just stares, speechless, the fight draining out of him. And one more thing, Father, I say, my gaze locking with his. Regarding your company, Anderson Corp., given the recent downturn in stock value due to certain unfortunate rumors of financial irregularities, I found it remarkably affordable to acquire a controlling interest. Through several proxies, of course. As of yesterday's market close, I am the majority shareholder. I allow myself a small, tight smile. The board will be meeting next week to discuss your future leadership. Or lack thereof. The first tangible sign of the new reality arrives within hours. Reporters. A small, then growing cluster of them outside the main gates, cameras flashing, microphones extended. Drawn by a series of well-placed anonymous tips about potential financial crimes and the impending implosion of the Anderson business empire. My family, once symbols of local society, are now fodder for the tabloids. James, ever the opportunist, doesn't take long. A curt, formal note arrives for Elise by messenger. The engagement is off. The diamond ring is left on the hall table, a sad, sparkling reminder of a future that will never be. The pale circle it leaves on her tanned finger is like a brand. Father's phone buzzes incessantly. Panicked messages from his few remaining business partners, from board members, from his increasingly nervous lawyers. The notice for the emergency board meeting he's been dreading is formally served. His empire isn't just crumbling, it's imploding. That evening, I move my few belongings. Not to a new apartment yet. That will come. For now, I move them from the dusty attic, my servants' quarters, down to the master suite. My mother's suite. It still faintly smells of her favorite perfume gardenias and something citrusy, a scent I thought I'd forgotten. Or perhaps it's just my imagination, a comforting ghost in the midst of the upheaval. The university administration contacts me directly. Apologies. Profuse, sincere-sounding apologies for the administrative errors and unfortunate misunderstandings regarding my academic record and scholarship opportunities. My original academic plan, the one Father sabotaged, is reinstated. Classes are reshuffled. Suddenly, I am a valued student again. I gather the few remaining household staff, Mrs. Gable among them, her return already arranged by me. Their faces are anxious, uncertain. There will be some changes, I tell them, my voice gentle but firm. You will be retained under new management, my management. Your salaries will be guaranteed and, frankly, improved. The wave of relief, the genuine smiles, the way Mrs. Gable's eyes tear up. It's a small balm to the rawness of the past few years. Their expressions confirm what I've long suspected. They knew. They saw. And they are on my side. The power hasn't just shifted, it has been reclaimed. The world my former family knew is dissolving at an astonishing speed. Father, stripped of his company, his reputation in tatters, now faces preliminary charges of financial fraud, embezzlement, and tax evasion. The evidence I provided to the authorities, meticulously gathered and damningly clear, forms the backbone of the prosecution's case. His attorney, a sleek shark named Mr. Sterling, who probably charges by the minute, calls me daily. Miss Vance, he purrs, his voice a slippery thing. A little understanding, a little family solidarity could go a long way in mitigating your father's unfortunate situation. I let him talk, I offer nothing. The click of cameras and the low murmur of reporters have become a constant soundtrack outside the estate gates, and now, increasingly, outside the courthouse. Our family scandal is public knowledge, splashed across local news sites and whispered about in every corner of the city. Tycoon's empire crumbles amidst fraud allegations. One headline screams, "Daughter versus Father, the inheritance battle that toppled a fortune," reads another. They don't know the half of it. Elise's carefully curated world is imploding. Her friends, those sycophants and social climbers, have vanished like mist in the morning sun. Her social media accounts, once a vibrant stream of parties and privilege, have fallen silent. The invitations have dried up. The calls go unreturned. She's discovering the harsh reality of a life without the glittering shield of Anderson money and influence. James, ever the opportunist, attempts to slither back into my orbit. He bumps into me near my new apartment building, looking artfully disheveled and earnest. "Clara, I had no idea how bad things were for you," he says, his eyes wide with feigned sincerity. "Elise, she painted such a different picture. I always knew you were the strong one, the good one." The coffee he insists on buying me grows cold on the table between us as I listen to his revisionist history without a word, my expression unreadable. He's testing the waters, seeing if there's a way back in, a way to attach himself to my rising star. There isn't. Stepmother Diane, pragmatic to the last, is already negotiating her exit strategy. She contacts Mr. Hemlock, my attorney, offering information. Details of father's hidden offshore accounts, names of his more shadowy associates, dates, transactions. All in exchange for a comfortable settlement in her inevitable divorce and perhaps a degree of immunity. Her loyalty, it seems, has a clear price tag. She was always a survivor. The university, eager to distance itself from the scandal, launches a formal, very public investigation into academic interference. My former academic advisor, Miss Periwinkle, faces disciplinary action. Her career in jeopardy for her role in trying to manipulate my education at father's behest. The wheels of institutional consequence grind slowly, but they do grind. A week later, father requests another private meeting. Not in the study this time. That room is now mine. Officially, the lock's changed. We meet in the cheerless, neutral territory of his lawyer's conference room. The change in him is startling. The arrogant bluster is gone, replaced by a haggard weariness. The expensive suit is rumpled. His eyes are bloodshot, and a few days' worth of stubble shadows his jaw. He smells of stale fear. "Clara," he begins, his voice raspy. "We can fix this. As a family." He leans forward, his hands clasped beseechingly on the polished mahogany table. "Your mother. She wouldn't have wanted this. This public disgrace." He then outlines a desperate, delusional plan. I use my newfound resources, my mother's real legacy, to bail him out, to rebuild his company, to restore the family name. "He'll make me CEO," he says, as if that's some grand prize. "We can put it all back together, you and I." The ice cubes in my water glass clink softly as I swirl them, my gaze steady on his face. I watch him cycle through the stages. Feigned remorse, desperate bargaining, a flash of the old anger when I don't immediately agree, then back to pathetic pleading. I say nothing. My silence is its own answer. Elise tries a different approach. She appears at my new apartment unannounced one rainy evening, dripping water onto the polished hardwood floors of my entryway. Her mascara is smeared, her designer clothes are soaked, and she looks genuinely wretched. "Clara, please," she sobs, actual tears streaming down her face this time. "I never understood. I swear I never knew the extent of what Daddy was doing with your inheritance. I was just a stupid kid." She's 21. Not a kid. We're still sisters, aren't we? Blood is thicker than water. She reaches for my hand. I don't pull away, but I don't offer any comfort either. Her performance is good, we'll give her that. Almost believable. James resorts to handwritten letters delivered by courier. Flowery prose recalling our childhood friendship, our shared dreams, the misunderstanding that pulled us apart. Each envelope, thick with expensive cream-colored paper, is added unopened to a growing stack on my desk. Some wounds are too deep for pretty words to heal. Diane, true to her word, meets with Mr. Hemlock and me. Her hands shake almost imperceptibly as she slides a USB drive across the table. Everything I could find, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. Account numbers, access codes, a ledger he thought I didn't know about. She looks at me then, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. Respect? Fear? I hope it helps you get what you deserve, Clara. Your mother. She was a good woman. He destroyed her too, in his own way. The day before his bail hearing, Father manages to arrange one last brief encounter. In the soulless visitor's room at the detention center, separated by thick glass, he tries his final gambit. He actually kneels, or as much as one can kneel in the cramped space. His face is pressed close to the glass, his eyes wild with desperation. Mercy, Clara! Forgive me, I'm your father, I'll do anything. Anything! The word echoes hollowly. I look at him, this broken man who caused so much pain, who stole so much more than just money. And I feel nothing. Not hatred, not pity, not even satisfaction. Just a vast, empty quiet where all those raging emotions used to be. No, I say simply. My voice is calm, transmitted tinny and distorted through the cheap intercom. The single word hangs in the air between us. I stand up and walk away, leaving him on his knees. Elise, not one to give up easily, corners me at the university cafe a few days later. She attempts to create a public scene, her voice rising, tears welling on cue, hoping to shame me into some sort of sisterly reconciliation for the benefit of the watching students. How can you be so cruel, Clara? After everything we've been through as a family. I don't accept your apology, Elise, I state calmly, my voice carrying easily over the clatter of cups and quiet conversations. The scent of fresh coffee and baked goods grounds me as her performance visibly crumbles under my unwavering gaze. You made your choices. Now you live with them. I pick up my latte and walk out, leaving her standing there, exposed and humiliated. James makes his last stand outside my business ethics class. The irony is not lost on me. He's dressed in his best suit, a hopeful, entrepreneurial gleam in his eye. Clara! I have this incredible new venture, a tech startup, ground floor opportunity. With your business acumen and my connections? He means my money and his desperation. We could be partners like we always talked about. I walk past him without a word, without a glance. The afternoon sun is warm on my face as I join my actual study group, the one with students who are genuinely interested in learning, not in leeching. He's left standing on the steps, his proposal dying on his lips. There's one final bizarre family gathering. It's not a gathering, really, it's an ambush, orchestrated by some distant aunt who still believes in family above all. At the lawyer's office, during a preliminary discussion about the division of what few remaining, legally untainted assets are left before the estate sale of the main house, they are all there. Father, out on a temporary, highly restrictive bond I didn't contest as it changes nothing. Diane, Elise. They make a unified plea, forgiveness, restoration, a chance to heal. I look at their expectant faces. Faces that watched me serve them, that dismissed me, that plotted against me. You had your chance to be a family, I respond, my voice clear and unwavering in the sterile conference room where I once signed away my life. Years of chances, and you chose every single time to be something else. I stand up. Mr. Hemlock has my instructions regarding the final disposition of assets. There's nothing more to discuss. The judge's gavel comes down with a sharp, decisive crack. Bail is denied. Father sags, his face ashen. The evidence I provided, the clear flight risk, the sheer scale of the alleged fraud, It was instrumental. The sunlight streaming through the high courtroom windows creates patterns on the polished floor as, weeks later, I give my testimony. Calmly, factually, detailing the years of financial abuse, the manipulation, the theft. I stick to the facts. The facts are damning enough. Elise, in a last-ditch effort to secure her financial future, hastily arranges a marriage to a rather bewildered, elderly, and supposedly wealthy distant acquaintance. The wedding is planned to be a lavish affair designed to reassert her social standing. When her discreet inquiries about my willingness to fund this spectacle reach me, my response is a polite, firm refusal. The wedding, I hear later, is a much smaller, far more subdued event. Her new husband's wealth, it turns out, is mostly an illusion. The university board issues a formal public apology to me for the academic interference I endured. They offer restitution, a full scholarship for any graduate studies I might wish to pursue, and a significant donation in my mother's name to the department she loved. The official letter, on heavy parchment, feels weighty in my hands. A small measure of institutional accountability. I decline all interviews with the news outlets clamoring for the inside story. Instead, I release a brief, carefully worded statement through Mr. Hemlock. It speaks not of my personal grievances, but of the broader issue of financial abuse within privileged families, the vulnerability of young inheritors, and the importance of vigilance and seeking independent counsel. Then, something unexpected happens. One by one, my mother's former friends begin to contact me. Women who knew her well before father, before the slow dimming of her light. They share stories, memories, old letters. And with their stories come fragments of truth, small corroborating details that confirm my deepest, darkest suspicions about the true circumstances of her accidental death. It wasn't just financial ruin he brought her. It was something far more final. The quest for full justice, I realize, might not be over yet. But for now, this chapter is closed.